Welcome back to Flagstone Trail. You know, it's our series on Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power.
Mm-hmm.
We're diving into a law that's all about strategy, thinking ahead, and playing the long game.
Uh-huh.
It's a Law 29 plan all the way to the end.
Powerful stuff.
So in the workplace and life, we can get so caught up in the day-to-day,
Yeah, just reacting to whatever's right in front of us.
Right, exactly.
But this law, it's about stepping back.
Mm-hmm.
It's about that bigger picture.
Yeah.
Really thinking through where you want to be and how you're going to get there.
Okay, so are we talking like a super detailed plan?
Right.
Mapping out every single step?
Yeah.
Because that feels a little rigid.
I think it's not necessarily about a rigid step-by-step plan, right? I mean, life happens like those curveballs.
Yeah.
It's more about having a clear objective,
Okay.
a flexible strategy.
Okay, I like that, a flexible strategy.
Yeah.
But how do we even begin to plan all the way to the end when we don't know what the future holds?
Well, it starts with defining your El Dorado.
Ooh, El Dorado, I like it.
What's that ultimate goal that you're striving for?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a promotion, a new skill you want to master, starting your own business?
Right.
Whatever it is, it needs to be clear, compelling enough to guide your actions.
Right, having that North Star.
Yeah.
But even with a clear goal, it's so easy to get sidetracked or caught up in the excitement of a project, and we miss potential pitfalls.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where the historical examples can be really helpful.
Okay.
Robert Greene uses the story of Vasco Núñez de Balboa,
Oh, yeah.
the explorer who discovered the Pacific Ocean, to illustrate these dangers of not planning to the end.
He was incredible, but he made some big blunders.
He did.
Yeah.
Balboa achieved amazing things.
Yeah.
Imagine crossing the Isthmus of Panama on foot.
Wow.
But despite discovering the Pacific and hearing whispers of the Incas and El Dorado, he ultimately lost his head.
Literally and figuratively.
Literally and figuratively.
Because he didn't plan all the way to the end?
Exactly.
Yeah.
He didn't keep his discovery secret, so others capitalized on his hard work. And he underestimated his rivals, particularly Pedrarius, who eventually had him executed.
So even though he had this amazing feat, he didn't secure his power and legacy? That's a pretty stark warning.
It is. Balboa's story is a reminder that success in the short term doesn't guarantee long-term victory.
Right.
We need to be thinking not just about what we want to achieve, but also about who might try to undermine us or take credit for our work.
Yeah.
And how we can prevent that from happening.
It's like in the workplace, you might come up with a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
But if you don't think about how to protect it, someone else might swoop in and take all the credit.
A perfect example, or let's say you're aiming for a promotion.
Okay.
You might be working hard, exceeding expectations, but if you haven't considered the political landscape, identified key allies and potential rivals, you could easily be overlooked.
So planning to the end also involves understanding the power dynamics at play.
Absolutely. It's about being aware of the unspoken rules, the alliances, the rivalries that shape the environment you're operating in.
Okay.
And then using that knowledge to your advantage.
So we've got our El Dorado.
Yes.
We're thinking about potential rivals. We're being mindful of the political landscape. What else should we be considering when we're planning all the way to the end?
Well, remember, Greene's concept of the cost of actions.
Okay.
Every decision we make has a consequence.
Right.
Not just in terms of the desired outcome, but also in terms of what we might have to sacrifice along the way.
Okay, I see what you mean. Like, if I'm aiming for that promotion, the cost might be longer hours, less time with family, or maybe even some strained relationships with colleagues who are also vying for the same position.
Exactly. Planning to the end means not just envisioning the desired outcome, but also being honest with yourself about what you're willing to sacrifice to achieve it.
Right.
And whether that cost is ultimately worth it to you.
That's such an important point, because sometimes achieving a goal might actually cost us more than it's worth, especially if we haven't carefully considered the potential downsides.
Right.
So how do we avoid falling into that trap?
Well, let's look at a contrasting example to Balboa Otto von Bismarck, the Iron Chancellor of Prussia.
Okay, Bismarck.
He's often cited as a master of Law 29. He was incredibly strategic. He had this grand vision of a unified German state.
Wow.
Under Prussian leadership, and he meticulously planned every step to achieve it.
He wasn't just lucky then. I always imagined him as this bold, almost impulsive leader forging ahead with sheer willpower.
He certainly had charisma and decisiveness.
Yeah.
But his success was deeply rooted in careful planning. For example, he recognized that Prussia needed to eliminate Austria's influence to achieve unification.
And that's where the whole Schleswig-Holstein conflict comes in, right? It seemed like a minor border dispute, but he used it to his advantage.
Exactly. He knew that a controlled conflict would stir up Prussian nationalism, giving him the public support he needed to eventually challenge Austria.
So he was thinking several moves ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Like a chess player.
Yeah.
How can we apply that kind of strategic thinking to our own lives? It seems like a lot of his success was due to his specific circumstances and the political climate of the time.
Of course, context always matters.
Right.
But the underlying principles of Law 29 are timeless.
Okay.
Take the Schleswig-Holstein situation, for example.
Okay.
Bismarck identified a potential opportunity, a seemingly minor conflict that he could leverage to achieve a much larger goal.
So we need to be on the lookout for those kinds of opportunities.
Yes.
But how do we know which ones are worth pursuing?
That's where the planning to the end mindset comes in.
Okay.
Ask yourself, does this opportunity, this project, this relationship ultimately align with my long-term goals?
Right.
If it doesn't, it might be a distraction, a detour that takes you further away from your El Dorado.
That makes sense. It's about being selective with our time and energy, focusing on the things that will actually move us closer to our objective.
Precisely, and just as importantly, it's about recognizing that the path to success is rarely linear.
Okay.
There will be setbacks, obstacles, unexpected challenges.
Like Balboa encountering hostile tribes and dense jungles on his way to the Pacific.
Exactly. And this is where Bismarck really shines as an example. He was a master of adapting his plans. He knew when to be bold, when to be patient, and when to shift gears entirely.
Wow.
He never lost sight of his ultimate goal, German unification, but he was flexible enough to adjust his strategy as needed.
So it's not about clinging rigidly to a plan, but more about having that compass, that guiding principle, and then being willing to adjust our course along the way.
Exactly. Think of it like navigating a ship through a storm.
Yeah.
You have your destination in mind, but you need to constantly adjust your sails and course based on the wind and waves.
That's a great analogy. It's about being adaptable, responsive to the changing environment, while maintaining that steady hand on the helm, keeping your eye on the ultimate prize. But there's another aspect of Bismarck's success that we haven't touched on yet.
And what's that?
Well, he knew when to stop. He unified Germany, achieved his ultimate goal, and then instead of pushing for more conquest, he focused on consolidating his power and ensuring stability. Unlike Balboa, who kept pushing further and further, even when it was clear he was overextending himself.
That's a crucial point. Bismarck understood that sometimes achieving more can actually cost us more than it's worth.
Yeah.
He recognized the importance of knowing when to stop, when to consolidate gains, when to enjoy the fruits of his labor.
That seems like a really difficult balance to strike.
It can be.
How do we know when we've reached our El Dorado? When is it time to stop striving and start savoring?
It's a question that requires both self-awareness and strategic thinking. It's about recognizing that true power lies not just in achieving goals, but also in knowing when we've achieved enough. And that might mean different things for different people.
So there's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Not exactly. It's about aligning your actions with your values, your goals, and your overall sense of fulfillment.
Fulfillment. That's a good point. It makes me think about the cost of our actions, like we were talking about before. Achieving our goals, even when we plan so carefully, can come at a high price.
It's true, We might achieve success, climb to the top of the ladder, but at what cost?
Right.
Our health, our relationships, our peace of mind.
Yeah.
These are all factors we need to weigh when we're planning all the way to the end.
So it's not just about getting to the goal, but how we get there.
Exactly. And that brings us back to values. What are the things that guide your decisions? What are the things you're not willing to sacrifice, no matter how tempting that reward might be?
Because if we don't have that inner compass, we might end up achieving a goal, but still feeling empty.
Exactly. Law 29 is about being intentional with our choices, not just the outcomes, but the path we take to get there.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the strategy side, defining our goals, anticipating obstacles, adapting our plans, but there's also the psychological element. Right? A certain mindset we need to cultivate to really master this law.
Absolutely. Planning all the way to the end requires a certain level of detachment.
Okay.
We need to be able to step back from the immediate situation, from our emotions, and see the bigger picture.
Like those Greek gods on Mount Olympus looking down at us.
Exactly. It's about cultivating that perspective.
Yeah.
Being able to see the patterns and possibilities that others might miss. And that requires emotional control.
Because if we let our emotions run wild, we're more likely to make rash decisions that could hurt our long-term plans.
Exactly. Think back to Balboa. He was driven by ambition, by a thirst for gold and glory. And while those desires can be powerful motivators, they can also cloud our judgment and lead us down dangerous paths.
So part of planning all the way to the end is mastering our own emotions.
Yes.
Not letting our desires or fears control us.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's about being strategic with our emotions, using them to fuel our actions, but not letting them control us.
We're the chess player, not the chess piece.
Well said.
It's about taking control of the game, not letting the game control us. All right, listeners, we've reached the end of our deep dive into Law 29 plan all the way to the end.
It's a good one.
We've explored having a clear vision, anticipating obstacles, adapting our plans, understanding the cost of our actions,
We have.
and the importance of cultivating a strategic mindset, mastering our emotions, staying true to our values.
All crucial elements.
It all comes down to this. Law 29 is about taking ownership of our choices, our actions, and our destinies.
Powerful stuff.
It's about becoming the architects of our own lives.
Hmm.
And that's it for today's Flagstone Trail discussion. We appreciate you listening.